How long was the creation week? Hello, it's Calvin Smith here, and welcome to Creation Basics, where our goal is to make God's creation part of your everyday conversation. Now, today's question is, how long was the creation week? Should be obvious. Well, the sixth day. What does that phrase mean to you? You see, more than 200 years ago, Christians began to question whether this day truly was the sixth day instead of the 6 millionth or 6 billionth day. They were responding to an idea popularized in the late 1700s that our planet and universe are much older than Scripture indicates. They wondered whether millions of years might be able to be harmonized with the Bible. So they scrutinized Genesis 1 and reinterpreted the days of creation week in a variety of different ways. And here are some of them and how they're supposed to work with the Bible. Gap theory. The gap theory was invented to insert millions of years after the first verse of the Bible, proposing that God created a world full of creatures and then destroyed it with a flood prior to verse 2, all before Adam's sin. Following those verses, God recreated the world we now know in 6 days. Okay, historical creation. This was a kind of modified version of the gap theory, confusingly called historical creation, teaching that God created the heavens and the earth over an indefinite period, but He then prepared the land for mankind in 6 ordinary days. Day-age theory. Another idea, known as the day-age theory, suggests that each of the 6 days was a long period. To span the supposed 4.6 billion years of Earth history, each day would need to be approximately 750 million years, and roughly 3 times that long to account for the supposed 13.8 billion year age of the universe. If this view is taken seriously, we must wonder how plants created on day 3 survived without the sun created on day 4 for hundreds of millions of years. Multiple gap view. Some have offered an alternative view that essentially blends the gap and the day-age theories. The multiple gap view states that the 6 days were normal length days separated by gaps of long ages. Same problem for the poor plants, by the way. Framework hypothesis. In the past century, several other new positions have reduced Genesis 1 to little more than poetry. They imply that it's okay to ignore most of the details as long as you acknowledge that God created this world and made man in His image. For example, the framework hypothesis argues that Genesis 1 is semi-poetic, overstressing an artificial parallelism of the creation days and groping for other elements that would make room for kind of non-literal interpretations of the text. Theistic evolution. Proponents of theistic evolution basically ignore the text altogether. They just allegorize or spiritualize chapters 1 to 11 of Genesis and reject almost all of the details. Now, perhaps these theologians over the years didn't recognize that each of these attempts to insert long ages into Scripture had fatal flaws, even before the alarming fact that they tried to change the original intent of the language. But most notably, they placed death, suffering, and disease long before Adam and Eve sinned. Yet you will still hear varieties of these views taught in Bible colleges and seminaries around the world. Many of these views deny the historical reality of the Bible's earliest chapters. This is unacceptable because it contradicts the biblical writers, including Jesus' own understanding of Scripture. Luke stated that Jesus was a descendant of Adam in Luke 3:38. If Adam wasn't a real person, as most theistic evolutionists would say, the statement would be absurd. Paul also wrote about Adam. Peter wrote about Noah and the flood. Jesus spoke about Noah and the flood, and he said the first man and woman were created from the beginning in Matthew 19:4. If Adam and Eve were created after billions of years of history, then Jesus was wrong. Certainly not God. And the positions that don't deny the historical reality of Genesis but add vast amounts of time to creation week fail as well. I mean, the Israelites were instructed to work for 6 days and rest for 1 in Exodus 20, verse 11. For in 6 days the Lord made the heaven and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the 7th day. If creation week lasted millions or billions of years, how could it possibly serve as the model for the work week described in the 10 Commandments? So, how long was the creation week? It was a week. Attempts to harmonize the Bible with long ages always fall short. Hey folks, Calvin here. If you've been watching this program for a while now, have been blessed by the content, understand the importance of biblical authority, and have the means, please consider giving a one-time gift or becoming one of our monthly supporters by clicking that link below. And even if you don't, keep watching. Our goal is to equip the average believer to be able to share the gospel more frequently and effectively by making God's creation part of your everyday conversation. Stay blessed.